Well, it's woe to the vanquished and to the victors the spoils. And by golly, aren't the victors enjoying their spoils? But it was a bit alarming to see that a few of the victors had got their snouts well and truly into the trough before the result had even been declared. Barnaby Joyce, predictably, had already rorted his travel allowance nicely by using public money to attend a private wedding, the wedding of shock jock Michael Smith, at which he was a lavishly entertained guest. So Barnaby eventually, and with great reluctance, paid some of the money back, claiming still that he was quite legitimate. That, as far as he was concerned, going to a wedding was just part of his day job. It was like going to the footy or going to the pictures. That's what you did, well, didn't you? And I suppose if you're a national to whom no rort ever goes past without being touched, yes, that is what you do. But it was a bit alarming to find him joined by George Brandis. Now, George Brandis is, among other things, the Attorney General of Australia, the nation's first law officer. So you'd think he'd be a bit scrupulous about how he had approached his entitlements. But not only that, he was also the great whited sepulchre in opposition, the man who took the very highest of high moral grounds, who regarded any abrogation of his absolute duties as a capital offence. And when it was done by people like Peter Slipper or Craig Thompson, when they rorted their expenses, well, no punishment was too severe. And yes, George Brandis had attended the same private wedding as did Barnaby Joyce. And what's more, he really made a mozza of it. He charged the taxpayer $1,600 for the privilege. But, of course, George Brandis is a lawyer, so he had a get-out clause. He said he made a speech at the wedding. So, of course, that made it work. That made it all right. But nonetheless, he was going to pay the $1,600 back anyway. He is not, however, going to pay back the $13,000 of public money, which he spent acquiring a new library. Yes, a library. Now, it's true that under the regulations brought into place by John Howard, each member is entitled to spend a few $1,000s a year on printed material. But the idea would be that these would be technical journals. These would be things that were necessary to the life of a parliamentarian. Historical fiction, literature, books of cartoons? I don't think so. But this is the kind of stuff George Brandis has amassed at public expense. And as I say, in all, more than $13,000 worth of it. Now, this may again be just within the letter of the law, but by golly, it's not within the spirit of the law. It is a rort, a plain and unadorned rort, and it should be exposed as such. Members with rather more integrity feel the same way. Last week I was at a function with John Faulkner, Labor's great reformer, and he was appalled by this. He said he had most of the same books, but he paid for them himself. Why should George be allowed to get away with it? Well, why indeed? But there's one book I don't think John Faulkner would have begrudged George Brandis, and that, of course, is The Mad Marathon, the story of the 2013 election by Mungo McCallum, launched by John Faulkner in Sydney last week. And if I'm making a rort of this broadcast, so be it. I'm Mungo McCallum.